A warm welcome to Moose on the Loose podcast in association with White Moose Media. I have a very special guest indeed today. You might have seen him for quite some time now. In fact, neither have I, but I'm delighted to welcome to Graco Studios this afternoon. It's Jason.
Hello.
Jason. How long has it been?
Nearly 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you miss me?
Of course I did.
I'm sure you did. So look, I'm delighted to have you. Thank you for coming over because, of
Thank
course,
you for
you're
having me.
across the water nowadays.
I am, yeah.
Yeah. So we flew you over, especially. Are you staying tonight or?
I am. I'm here
Okay.
till Friday.
Good. Well, look, what we'll do now is we'll rewind back to when we first met.
Yeah.
Can you remember what year that was?
Put me on the spot.
A lifetime ago.
2015.
Wow. What's that, 9 years ago?
Nearly a decade.
Wow. Can you remember that moment?
I can.
Tell us
I
about it.
can. It was very funny because so I had been out in Dublin a few days before and I had just joined Tinder and I had lost my phone, so I had my iPad with me. And I remember that like we matched on Tinder and we were messaging and the conversation was flowing. You were being very funny. And then you asked for my number and I had said like, oh, well, I actually don't have a phone because I lost it. I've got my iPad, and you thought I was a catfish. So I think we followed on Instagram. Or was it Facebook?
No, it might have been Facebook at the
I think
time.
it was Facebook, yeah, Facebook Messenger.
I don't even know if I had an Instagram account back then.
Ah, you did now.
Oh, did I?
You did.
Okay.
But yeah, and then we started messaging on that, and I think it was the next day. The next day is when we had our date, our first date.
I think there might have been. So I think maybe we matched on the Friday, and then we didn't meet until the Sunday. Because I did, do you remember the dry mankini? Or the dry man? So, right, I was living in Wicklow at the time.
Yes,
So I
how
did
could
a
I forget?
meetup group called, was it the dry, why would it be called the dry mankini?
No, it was the dry mantini.
Mantini. Okay, so play on the dry martini. I wasn't drinking, so I set up a meetup group for other like-minded non-drinkers who like to go walking. So I would have been in my regatta gear that you found very boring.
I mean, you rocked it.
Yeah.
You were rocking it.
So-
The yak leather boots.
The yak leather boots, yeah. Jesus Christ. So, yeah, we'll talk about that maybe in a while. But I remember I had done a walk that Sunday morning. So there was a day in between us matching
Yes.
and meeting.
It was the next day.
So, can you remember that first date?
I can, yes. You came to pick me up, and it was so funny because I remember at the time the only person I had told was my younger sister, so I hadn't like told anyone else, but I had to kind of sneak out the front door, and then you came to collect me, and you were like, "Where do you want to go?" And I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "I haven't really thought of it." I was like, "We could go to McDonald's,"
Yeah.
and then we got the McFlurry.
No. You got a plain Sunday.
Plain Sunday, that was it. Yeah, and
We
then
went for imagine a first date going for a McDonald's drive-through and you had a plain Sunday.
I was watching my figure. I worked for Hollister at the time.
You did, yeah.
I did,
You did
yeah.
work for Hollister in Dundrum, wasn't
Yeah.
it? And so we had our McFlurry. I think I probably had a McChicken sandwich or something.
No, you got a chicken wrap.
Oh, a chicken wrap. Yeah. Because I would have been watching my figure as
And
well,
it was funny, it was awkward because after I was just eating that plain Sunday and then we were trying to have a conversation, but you were like scoffing that wrap. I was just sitting there like, come on.
Right. And then what happened?
And then we just went on a drive. I think you were like, we kind of got into a DMC and you were like, where do you want to go? And I was like, oh, we can just drive around for a bit.
So remember, hang on, some of these people watching mightn't know what DMC means. So just explain to camera what DMC means.
Deep, meaningful conversation.
Now,
Yes.
continue.
So we were driving and then either we went to Phoenix Park first, very controversial, not for the reasons you think, but we went to either Phoenix Park first or did you pull into Charleville?
So I pulled into Charleville to get something.
Yes. You brought out the Haribo
I went in to get jellies.
Star Mix.
Yeah. So in Charleville Lodge, we used to put a little welcome pack in every guest room, which consisted of a packet of potato, cheese and onion,
The worst Cadbury's bar.
a Star bar, which is the best Cadbury's bar. I mean, the amount of polls I've done on social media over the years asking people to vote, and it always came
Who
up
were
top.
these people? Who was
I
voting
know.
for Star Bar?
I would have preferred a Murrow probably,
No,
which is
it's-
called
you know what?
Boost now.
Dairy Milk Golden Crisp.
Golden Crisp, yeah. That is one of my favourite. Mint Crisp?
No, Golden
No?
Crisp. Top tier.
Okay. But anyway, I went in to get Jason and myself one of each, just as a little, on our way to Phoenix Park. So you didn't know why I was bringing you into this place, nor did I tell you. You were like, is this where he lives?
I was like, what? You did mention it was work, and I kind of found it a bit strange. I was like, I wouldn't be caught dead going into work like after hours. I was like, is this man all right?
Yeah.
Going in there after work hours.
So then we got our Haribos and we drove to Phoenix Park.
We did.
And what happened then?
God, so you're going to hate me for this, but
No, I know exactly. I know exactly what you're going to say.
I was a little pretentious prick back then, and I remember like I had a very specific type where I wouldn't get with or be with someone who was shorter than me, and whichever way you had the seats angled very cleverly, I feel like mine was lower than yours. So when we were in the car having the conversation, I was like, okay, I'm vibing with this guy. I was like, he's a great guy, really funny, very charming. So by that
importantly,
time,
he's tall.
Yes. So I was like, about that time, I was like, here we are, we're going for a little stroll.
Yeah.
Got out of the car, and then you like walked around the front, and I was like, oh fuck, he's fucking shorter than me. And I remember thinking like, you know what, it's grand. And that was the first time where I was like, you know what, I'll disregard my type, because we had such like chemistry, and it was such a wonderful first date. And I remember we were kind of walking around, and then we went to, was it Dublin Zoo first, or did we go to the monument thing?
Well, this was at 11:30 at night or
Yeah,
something,
it's
so I don't
quite
think we
late,
were going to Dublin Zoo.
No, remember we walked around
Perimeter to see if we could see any lions or anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we walked to the
And it was actually a lovely. Don't mention the. You can mention the monument in a minute, but it was actually a lovely kind of a moonlit night.
It was
perfectly still,
very clear,
stars out.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point walking around, and the wolves started howling.
Yeah.
And it was just a kind of a special moment.
It was. It was also very like spontaneous, because I had gone on dates before that were very
normal,
premeditated, planned, boring, like, being just normal, chivalrous. They're kind of like, the boring conversations. So I was very intrigued. And then after that, we walked to the monument, and you told me the story about your car getting stolen.
Yeah.
And I found that mad. And then
I knew it was coming. Go on.
we walked up to the monument.
This is the Wellington Monument, isn't it?
Yes. I didn't know it was called the Wellington Monument.
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah.
Oh.
I'm pretty
what
sure
it's called?
it is. Yeah, Wellington Monument.
Well, there you go. You learned something new.
Absolutely. Every day is a school day. Keep going.
So I hopped up, no bother. Obviously, the height. And I turned around, and you were kind of struggling to get up. And I was like, do you want a hand? You were like, no, it's fine. So I was like, I'll let him do his bits. And he got up there eventually, and we were talking. And I was talking about getting the new iPhone, and he would mention an iPhone that didn't exist. The storage
probably
size.
wouldn't put it past me.
And I was like, oh, well, good luck finding that one. 'Cause he was like, I've been trying to get it for months. And I was like, oh, yeah.
You'll never get it.
And then there was loads of fireworks, which was quite special.
And like, isn't that a special, non-conventional date?
It is. It was wonderful.
Yeah. So, and look at how neither of us have remembered or forgotten about it.
I know.
Especially the bit about me struggling to get up onto the monument. So, okay. After the date, did we start dating kind of quickly?
It was very quickly, yeah.
Okay. Well, in fact, if you don't mind me saying, I think that was the Sunday.
Yeah.
And I think you moved in with me on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
2 days later.
To be fair, though, you lived in the fucking
arsehole of nowhere. You can curse as much as you want.
Arsehole of nowhere, which was a lovely little house. Like, looking back now, it's very content and cute. But like, Jesus Christ, if your car ever broke down there, that's it. You're
gone.
Yeah.
And if I was ever snowed in, I'd be like a hermit for days.
And it was kind of like, when I remember thinking, I was like, does this man work? Because for the first time I stayed over, you kind of stayed at home for a few days, and then we did bits like, I did a dry mantini thing, which was awful.
Fabulous.
Oh God. The hot yoga, was it? Or the... Oh yeah. I couldn't stop farting.
And you were farting like a lunatic.
First and last time. I fell asleep as well.
And then you fell asleep. I remember that. Where was that? In Kildare somewhere. We did a yoga retreat. And we all had to just meditate for a while. And then all of a sudden, the noises, the farting noises and the snoring.
I was very relaxed, to be fair.
The snoring was
that's the
just
last time.
something. It was something else. But yeah, look, me living there was a kind of a bit like me living in Achill now, insofar as it was getting away from the madness.
Yeah.
You know, and like up until that point, when I did live in Ballsbridge, it was like party central and drug central and drink central and everything. So,
Was.
oh, what? Well, no, yeah, it was.
Still is, yeah.
It was. No, it's
Yeah.
not still. It's like I live in Achill now, so like the chances of, I mean, I'm not going to be going out on the tear in Achill. In fact, Achill is a sense of safety, really, because
Yeah.
and so similarly, so my life has kind of been party, you know, chill, party, escape, maybe you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what Achill is now. And hopefully, and I think I'll stay there. But anyway, back to us. So we moved in together on the Tuesday, and then sometime later, we started a cafe together,
Yes.
and that cafe is called,
The White Moose.
and of course I named it the
Oh,
White
yeah.
Moose. No, I didn't. No, in fact, no. And credit where it's due. So, if I may just tell this little story.
course.
So you came to work in Charleville Lodge. Now, Charleville Lodge was a 30-bedroom guest house on the North Circle Road, and when Jason started there, it resembled something out of the movie The Shining, probably scarier. But there was a breakfast room downstairs, and it was deep mahogany tables, and kind of linen tablecloths, and just it wasn't really. What's the word? Vibing? It wasn't vibing really.
It had its own, it had a lot of potential.
Yeah. But anyway, so Jason started working there as a waiter, and I'll never forget you in your black shirt and the red Tikibo.
To be fair though, when like you did blindside me when I came into the office, you were like, "Oh, where you were short on a member of staff," and you said it to like Marta or Anna. You were like, "Oh, Jason's going to be starting," and
Oh,
I was
really?
like, "What?"
Okay. All right.
And that was kind of how I started off helping out first. It was
Okay.
always because I was still working at Hollister,
Yeah.
so it was still very temporary.
And you can probably remember the breakfast back then, kind of the poached eggs, microwaved. It wasn't the best in the world. But anyway, I guess we both saw potential for that space.
Yeah.
That it wasn't being leveraged by, it being just the breakfast room for the 30 bedrooms upstairs. And we were both aware of this new TUD, which like you'd want to see it now.
Goldmine.
Have you seen it now?
I have. I was there recently.
Unreal. But we knew this was coming down the tracks, so we kind of said, let's try and do something with this space. And we thought about opening it up to the public. And originally we were going to call it the
268. Top Hat?
The Top Hat Cafe.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. Did you think it was going to be like a circus or something?
No,
Or-
so it was kind of like after the whole process of like identifying how much potential it had, because you have to admit that building is and still is absolutely stunning, and like
Absolutely.
that breakfast room had so much charm, and I could see the potential, and like I could like picture it as like how like I envisioned it, like that kind of country cafe style. We loved eating in cafes all the time, and there was a brunch boom happening in Dublin.
Swans on the green.
Swans on the green. What was the other one? Urban, which is great in Nace, the brownie. Remember?
Yeah, yeah.
But also like the
Remember
rest of the
bringing
hotel.
Dee there when he was like that size.
Yeah, I don't know.
Go on anyway. Sorry.
And like even the lounge, it just had so much potential. I just felt it wasn't being utilized. And
Yeah.
Phibsborough there was nothing there. Like I remember when I did start working and we would go for lunch, like in Phibsborough, there was only Woodstock and there was the deli that's now a sushi bar, or I don't know if it still is. There was the little bagel place, and then there was the Daybreak. That was kind of the only
it
three.
was very mediocre offerings.
Yeah.
Whereas now you have a Bunsen.
You've got everything.
Like imagine if there was Bunsen when we were there.
But there's like on that walk alone to the kind of crossroads, there's like 4 cafes now there. But like obviously recognizing the potential, like the kind of brunch boom, and then coming down to trying to work within a budget, because we didn't want it to be crazy money, and the furniture that was there was stunning. It was kind of like trying to utilize what we had as like much as possible.
Stunning if you like something out of The Shining.
Yeah.
But
Well, you have to see the car, because I feel like, you know, nowadays furniture is very bleak and modernized. It takes away from all the character, where you would have like a mahogany table, which people put a lot of work into like making and crafting, and like that beautiful pantry dresser that was there. It was just kind of making it all tie together so it had some kind of theme rather than just misplaced furniture. But yeah, and then we kind of came with the plan, and then it was like thinking of names. So I had a few mood boards, and some of them were like wall displays that I had seen on Pinterest, which were different types of top hats. So we were looking at getting like mounts for the wall to put top hats.
a load of top hats, wasn't it?
And then there was one about clocks as well. We were going to call it like Times Cafe or something.
Or timepiece or something like that.
Something like that, but it was
Yeah.
too basic.
Yeah.
Too basic, bitch. And then we discussed the 268 Cafe because of the address.
Because it was house number 268
Yeah.
North Circular Road.
And then I found that bad boy,
So okay, the bad boy being
the White Moose.
the White Moose. What came first? You finding it or you naming it?
Finding it first, because I knew I wanted like a kind of a misplaced, because at the time it was like all over Pinterest of having loads of kind of different wall ornaments kind of mismatched to make it look a little bit kind of rustic and vintage. And a lot of them had like actual taxidermy heads, like, you know, you'd have a deer head, and I kind of was looking for it, but not something that was going to break the bank, where I didn't want a real deer head. Also, it'd be a bit grim.
Well, I mean, the amount of vegans living in Fitzroy, well, it might have been a good
got the
thing,
ashes
actually.
here, yeah.
Jesus, it would have been a great thing. Why did we get a fake thing when we could have got a real thing?
But it was something that, like, when I looked up, I was looking up deer heads, and I remember going onto Etsy and seeing like deer heads, and then coming across this company that did literal like unicorns, dinosaurs, all different types of animals. And there was just something very striking about the moose.
Did you at any point think about going for the unicorn?
I did, but
I would have certainly turned you down immediately on that.
Unicorn Cafe is very...
I think there was one already in
There
town
definitely
somewhere.
was. I did my research, so I wanted something unique that had a nice ring to it, but also when you would search, you wouldn't see, like, if it was Unicorn Cafe, there's probably thousands of them.
Yeah.
And there was just something so striking about the antlers as well. And it was nice. It was like a nice size. It wasn't too big. So ordered it, but then I was terrified that it'd be tiny when it arrived.
Do you remember where it came in from?
I don't know.
Utah.
Okay.
I think we ordered it through Etsy.
We did order it, through Etsy.
But anyway, there it is there, folks. And so that's how the cafe got its name.
Yes.
That's how they got there. So it was just the wall was designed.
Yeah.
There were the pieces, and at the top was the White Moose. And I think there was one moment where, even after ordering it, we still didn't know the name of the cafe. But when we were assembling it, and I remember carefully up in the lounge, laying out everything. This will go there, and it was you who was in charge of that kind of stuff, because I wouldn't have a clue. But we put the White Moose at the top, and then I think we were sitting on table.
It was
1 or 2.
No, it wasn't. It was the big tables. It was either, oh God, the layout. It was table number.
Well, whatever table
5.
it was, I think it was over. And at one point, you and I looking at each other and then looking up at the wall. Now, it mightn't have been as romantic as that, but that's how I remember it, and that's how I tell people. And then us kind of almost looking at each other, and in one, at the same breath saying White Moose Cafe. But you'll claim all the credit.
That sounds very cinematic now.
Yeah, it's very cinematic. Well, isn't my life a cinema? But that's how it came.
Yeah.
And so, did you at that point realize what was coming down the tracks in terms of, like, how big it actually got?
No.
No.
Could never have fathomed that it would span into what it did. I knew it was special, and I knew that, like, the relationship you had with the staff was unlike anything I'd ever seen before, and you had such an incredible way. Like, the staff absolutely adored you, and you adored them, and I thought that was something.
All of them?
Not all of them. There's always going to be 1 or 2 miserable fucks. Do you know what I mean? No names, but
In any walk of life.
But I think that, like, it was something very special, and you could tell that there was a genuine connection between the team, and they just loved being there.
And so what we did then with the White Moose was we effectively made a cast of characters out of them.
Yeah.
Go on.
I'm going to say that I think the one thing is, like, before Snapchat entered the picture, it's like how you were with the staff was always there. It was very present. And I think that like at the time during the Snapchat boom, you loved making these videos with the staff, but you never shared it or broadcast it. And I was like, it'd be such a great thing for you to show behind the scenes.
So how long did it take? So we established the cafe in 2015. That's fine.
Yeah.
When was it that people started hearing about it?
So you always had the Facebook like massive amount of following because of the Outrage marketing, and it was hilarious and the posts were fantastic. And I think for the first year we were open, in that year period, I remember being so nervous getting a notification when you posted a post. I've been like, oh God.
Yeah.
I was like, this is it now. We're going to be hated.
But the Outrage marketing, Jason, started after the cafe was...
Not necessarily.
Did I do it for Charles Lodge before?
You did it for Charles Lodge, and then it kind of trickled.
And the Garth Brooks and
yes,
everything.
You
I've
did.
been doing that.
Yeah, and I remember saying to you, I was like, I want the cafe to be like proper, like no
messing.
No messing. But obviously, when the opportunity presented itself, because I think the first post was the
vegan.
No, the inhaling the sandwich.
Oh no, the vegan came before that.
No, was it?
Oh, I can tell you now, the vegan came before that, I think.
No, I think you're wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think you're wrong.
Okay. All right.
As I remember, the first big outrage was like the kind of shaming the customer who basically inhaled their fucking plate of food, like, and I mean inhaled.
Yeah.
And given
was
the
gone
opportunity,
within a couple of seconds.
Yeah, licked the fucking plate clean, and given the opportunity, like checked on them. They were like, oh, everything's great, and then wrote that review, and being so angered that when you did the post in retaliation, I was like, you know what, you do your thing, because this.
So you were with me on that.
I was with you on that, because I was like, this is so unjust what the customer is doing. Like they're completely lying, to try and, I don't know what they were looking for, like a freebie or to slander the cafe. And I think as well at that time was particularly difficult because I was, and both of us and all the staff were trying so much to try and, because of where we were located and TUD wasn't open yet, there wasn't an awful lot of like footfall. So do you remember when we would stand out with the pancake tasters and we would do deals, and I would change the chalkboard with like different deals every now and then and do different promotions. And I remember even St. Patrick's Day after we opened, giving the free
Mintero shakes.
No, the Irish coffees you were making.
The shake. Yeah.
And like
that was early days.
That was early days, and it didn't come until the Snapchat boom, I feel, kind of happened that summer. And it was 2016.
Yeah.
It started to really take off. And we had started to build a more kind of stronger cafe team because we were gradually picking up. And that's when we had like, you know, we had Haley, we had Circa, we had Aga.
So when you say the Snapchat boom, what do you mean by that?
You know, like that summer during in Dublin where everyone, their granny and their ma was on Snapchat.
Yeah.
And it was kind of
storying
like,
their life.
Yeah. And it was very much like
how sad.
I mean, if you look back at it, like one thing I'm fascinated about in London is the people's fascination with reality TV, like garbage TV, and like people watching it religiously is not something I ever really kind of did, like Celebrity Big Brother, other than the year with Gemma Collins. But
do an impression of Gemma Collins there.
I can't. I'm not on the spot.
Jason. You will in
a few bottles of wine.
Well, there is a fridge full of wine out there, Prosecco.
I don't need a glass either, just a straw.
Just by the neck. Go on.
But I found that like in Ireland, we don't necessarily have an awful amount of like what you would, you know, consider reality stars. So people would be bored of what's on the 4 channels that we have and would kind of turn to their phone for entertainment. And I feel that the Snapchat kind of boom was people's reality shows. It was like following these people that you knew nothing about and that you were so engrossed in their daily lives. Like I was guilty of it as well. It was fascinating, and it happened almost so quickly.
Yeah. So for people who don't know what that was, because like not everybody, like Snapchat has just died a death.
I still use it.
Well, it's used for various purposes. We won't talk about them though.
Send me a cheeky pic.
Yeah. So just to explain how the Snapchat boom took place, basically I would come in every day and I'd start storying the day in the cafe. So, and each of the different workers would become characters in this show. And you'd have Anna, the Polish housekeeper, who I would dance with. You'd have Chris, the kind of eccentric night porter who everyone loved. And you'd have, you know, the various different, Tommy the chef was a bit of eye candy for the girls.
Sassy Circa, the sexy barista.
Sassy Circa. And so, and you know, you had an endless pool of content there, and every day was different. And, you know, I think people are inherently, are innately voyeuristic. They love watching. I mean, people on my Instagram are concerned about what I have for breakfast.
Madness.
I mean, on a certain level, it's kind of sad, but I mean, it's what people do.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't personally be interested in what people had for breakfast necessarily, but for some reason people are.
Yeah.
So that really grew legs, and people were watching us kind of every day, and we were getting huge views, huge on Snapchat. Like, I think we were getting 60,000, 80,000 story views on Snapchat back then.
It was insane.
And like, we won awards like the Goss.ie, Gossie, and like big Snapchats.
98 FM.
98 FM, yeah. Look in the camera and say that.
98
Yeah,
FM.
you lived that night, didn't you?
I loved that night.
You were up to no good that night, I'll tell you. Did that, in your opinion, have an impact on business levels in the cafe?
Absolutely. I feel that like one great thing about the Facebook is the Facebook following was always there, and it was great. It was the posts were fucking hilarious. Like I loved them. But the footfall that we experienced from the Snapchat, like it was unlike like with the Facebook, it was very hard to translate that reach into footfall. Yeah. Because it was very much international. The great thing about Facebook is at the time when it was in its prime, it could reach like mass volumes of people across the world. And there was brand recognition, which was fantastic, but that wasn't necessarily translating into footfall. I feel like Snapchat in Ireland had such a massive impact on people's social media because they used it so frequently that people could just drive then to the cafe. So seeing that, and like obviously having the following on Facebook helped kind of launch the platform on Snapchat and gain those like eyes originally. And I think it's just through word of mouth and people sending videos, being like, have you seen your man? He's hilarious.
Yeah. And then what would happen is people would come in to actually, so what I always said was they come for the social media, they stay for the food. Yeah. Because actually we did good food. Yeah. Like, and maybe over the years I didn't give enough credit to the chefs.
Beautiful. Yeah. The food is amazing.
And I do feel a bit of guilt in many different ways, but one of them might have been, you know, like our food was actually quite good. And I never really bigged up the food. It was more the day to day. What was your favourite item on the menu, by the way?
Oh, gosh, the hum eggs or the avarizo. Yeah. If I could have them again.
Whose idea were they?
They were yours, yeah. God damn it.
Then what happened was we kind of became, again, I use the term very loosely, famous. I don't believe in internet. I think having a lot of followers on Instagram is a bit like having a lot of monopoly money and saying you're rich. You know, you're not necessarily famous. But we were well known, and people came in to actually see us and get selfies with us as well as have food. It was almost as if they were coming into a film set.
Yeah.
But with that came, we had friends, but we developed some faux friends who it was pretty obvious that they were just befriending us because of the fame or the infamy. Do you agree with that?
100%. You had all these like up and coming people who would kind of come in and jump on the bandwagon, and we had some that were like amazing people, still friends with them, and others that would kind of just jump on the bandwagon to get some exposure. Didn't know me or you from Adam, and then just be like, all right, see you later, thanks for the free food, bye. Yeah, that's kind of, I felt, how a lot of the interactions happened, and it became very like fake. It'd be like you go all to these events, which are amazing events, and like, you know, a lot of time and work went into organizing them, and some of the conversations you would have with some of the people would be so fucking dull. You want to
be
bang your head.
You'd be out of your mind as well, because I couldn't face those without being out of my mind.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I struggled a lot, I think, with like, I guess it was kind of like imposter syndrome of being like going from watching these people on social media to then being at these events. And I think what was difficult for me to try and kind of like put together was working almost like nearly every day and living so close and kind of like going into work even on my days off. So we would go to these events, free alcohol, free food, and then would go straight back into work the next day. And then I think, you know, with customers not being able to associate with like, oh, he's actually working to, oh, he's this person I follow on social media. And I'm
understand it.
Terrible at saying no. So like I would feel guilty, but then it would cause all this like internal struggles of like, oh, if I take a photo and meet these fans that follow the social media, then my team members struggle because they're picking up the slack. And then that causes this like knock-on effect. And I remember just constantly being like feeling like I was stretched too thin, and then going to these events and meeting these people. And I was like, why am I bothering? Like, I'm not having any, some of them I had really great conversations with, but other, it was just like, what is the fucking point? Like, why am I talking about XYZ, about shit I don't even care about with people who I've no intentions of seeing outside of these events or these gatherings, you want to call them.
And did that take a bit of a turn? Like, do you think that the fame may have impacted on your mental health in any way?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think as well, like, it wasn't, like, we never did it for, like, at the end of the day, it was always just like a business tactic to get bums on seats. It was very much like showing what goes on behind the scenes and introducing, like, people to all these incredible, you know, workers that we work with. And they're part of the reason of what makes White Moose so great. Like, the social media helped and, you know, give exposure. But when it boils down to it, it was the team that we worked with, like the incredible chefs. And then all of that, trying to navigate like an entire team that are incredible and that need support from their leadership, whilst also trying to navigate all these, you know, fans and that are coming in. It was
too much.
Extremely difficult.
It was just too much. And you know what? I often think back at our time together with a tremendous amount of guilt. And I think back about our holidays and how, you know, I share everything, you know, and I story everything. And I'm sorry for that.
Oh.
Because, you know, I didn't consider that, you know, like, maybe you don't want to be on camera all the time.
I think though, if like, not like, I also felt guilty as well. I think that it was so new and it happened so quick for the both of us. I don't really think there's anyone to blame. I think that like there's no handbook on this, or there's no like, you go from essentially being like a private couple or a private person. And in saying so, like, I know by opening up to social media that these things can happen. Like, this is like part and parcel of putting yourself out there, which I fully understand. But I kind of thought that maybe by showcasing the White Moose and a few things outside of it, that we would still have some kind of privacy. So I think that it was a learning situation for both of us. Like, I felt guilty as well. I felt like I should have maybe been more active on my phone, or I guess like, you know, posting more than I did. But I think it was just exhaustion. It was like work and then social media. And essentially, like, it did take over, I feel, both of our lives, because it was trying to remain focused on like one thing at a time, but it was like multiple things at a time instead.
You see, I guess what I would have done back then is I would have used haters as a way of getting publicity. So we would have got, and I think anybody who has a profile gets a certain amount of hate, and I think it's to be expected when you're in the public eye. But what I used to do was I used to use them. So any negative comments that would come in, either directly or in the comment section, I would reply with humor, and then I would share both the initial comment and my reply, and people would love it.
Yeah.
And that's how I dealt with it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't give a fuck what people say.
Yeah.
And I have so many messages of hate coming in, and there's so many online platforms saying shit about this, that, and the other. And honestly, I couldn't give a flying fuck what people think anymore. But back then, it was kind of different. And, you know, while I used these haters to my advantage, you know, maybe you didn't take it so well. And I don't mean to put words in your mouth.
No.
But, you know,
Did
it grind away at you in any way, these people?
I think for me, like, similar to what you said, I think how you feel now was kind of how I felt then. I didn't necessarily give two fucks. Like, I'd kind of make a joke out of it if I received any types of hate, but a lot of these were from older, like, people in particular. So for me, I just found it
Now,
very...
don't be ageist now, Jason.
No, I'm just saying that the demographic,
Yeah,
we all know that Facebook page, girl.
Yeah.
But
Well,
what I
it's-
found...
I know it as well. Yeah.
what I found so fascinating was that, like, this, like, you know, group who encouraged, like, drinking and kind of hating on people. What kind of drew the line for me was when they realized they couldn't get through to me, or that, like, their hatred wasn't affecting me. It's when it turned to my family was what really irritated me. Like, when it went to talking about, like, my siblings and my parents, like, trying to figure out, like, what they did for work, and, you know, finding out the address I lived in, calling my sister's school, that, like, just crazy stuff like that. Like, being able to figure out by her school uniform from the few seconds that she may have, like, posted on her Instagram of where
What
she
do you
went.
think these people's motivations were?
God, if you ever find out, tell me, because I just can't, like, you know, I get the whole, you know, following people that you find interesting, but I think there's kind of, like, drawing the line of, like, privacy, and then particularly with people who are younger and, like, you know, might be teenagers or whatever, and kind of going that step too far. I just think like, some of these people have kids of their own, especially in that group. I just found that fascinating, like, in a weird way, that, like, these, you know, women are at home and all that they can focus about is, like, some young people on the internet that they can try and make their lives miserable.
Do you think it's more a reflection of them?
100%. I feel like when people do spew hatred, and it was the way that I always kind of seen it, it's like, I used to always have witty comebacks to people that would comment, especially if it was, like, homophobic or anything like that. As I'm like, they're just projecting their own insecurities. Like, that's, you know, they might not feel as confident or as, you know, in tune with themselves as they might like to be, and seeing people like that might kind of, they might see that as intimidating or envious and be begrudgery.
You'd kind of nearly feel sorry for them.
100%.
And you
Yeah.
kind of hope that they get the help that they need. Because I think there's two type of people in this life, and it's those who get up off their arses and do something with their life.
Okay, Kim K.
Or they sit on their holes and they begrudge others who are successful and try and bring them down with this kind of demeaning behavior and these kind of messages. And I know what type of person I'd prefer to be, and I think the same applies for you. So while during the White Moose days I used to see them as content creators, which they were, now I just have a sense of pity.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? Do what you want to do, but you know what? I don't want to be involved. I think being positive now is, I've become a very kind, caring, furry individual since I moved to Achill. It's like, I'm kind now, and there's no more outrage
you always have
marketing.
been.
Oh, well, thank you. And again, look, if I'm in any way responsible for any of that horrible stuff that went your way and then spilled out into your family, I do apologize. So
you can't control what, like, other people do, you know?
But let's liven it up and brighten it up a little bit. I just want to talk about one worker who came in and
Which one?
they thought they were coming onto a film set.
Oh God, yeah.
With being famous, again, I don't like that term, but I suppose that's what it was. You know, you'd have people applying to work in the White Moose who weren't necessarily looking to make coffees or flip burgers. They were looking to be famous. And remember, there was one particular. Tell us about that particular person.
I feel like in their defense, though, it, like...
But tell us about it first.
I think it's one of those stories where, like, when they came in, they were very charming. The interview was great, and there was just an odd of, like, uncertainty, like a sense of uncertainty, and, like, an odd sense of their vibe that was kind of like, I gotta see them in action. Like, are they as good as they say they are? Like, their work ethic, for example. And I'll never forget the trial because it was extremely, extremely busy, and I'm pretty sure, I'm almost sure, I'll have to ask her, but I think Circa was the person I asked to, like, train them in, like, you know, the coffee machine, and Aga was there as well. Aga's fantastic, love her to pieces, very stern, fantastic worker, but takes no shit. And I remember, like, I was busy maintaining the cafe, seeing if everyone was okay, checking on the kitchen. And I remember Circa pulling me aside, and Aga kind of been like, yeah, this person has no interest in working. Like, they were extremely rude to Anna Chovanska. Love her.
Zawsze gotuje babka, dziewka.
And basically came in and had this whole perception of like they wanted to take selfies, and when asked to like deliver orders, it was there was an attitude and like trying to get selfies with the staff, and it was very funny to watch happen, but I was also in a bit of disbelief, like, is this really happening?
They don't think it's a real life cafe.
No.
They actually have to go into the kitchen and take that plate and deliver it down to the. It's like selfie, This I thought that was very funny. But we did get into trouble once or twice.
Once or twice? I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you remember any of those times?
How can I forget the rap?
Well, we just talked about that one time we were fired.
Yeah.
So Jason and I were fired. And were the police called for that?
Were they called?
They were. Well, they were called on several occasions.
Yeah, they were.
But on this particular occasion, it resulted in Jason and I being fired from Charleville Lodge / White Moose Cafe. How many days later were we allowed back in?
Like 4 days.
3 or 4 days later. We had a great time. We were just watching Netflix all day, ordering Deliveroo 3 or 4 times a day. And we still got paid. But what happened that time?
Oh God, there was and this is what was great about the cafe as well and the hotel. There was never a dull day. Like, some people thought that these stories were they were like, made up, or like they weren't real. But if you work in hospitality, you know the shit that goes on, like crazy. And it was never a dull day because anything could happen. It could be someone falling down the fucking stairs, drunk from the night before. A hen party arrives, a fucking stag party. We were in work, and there was it like 3 people? It was 1 girl and 2 lads in a room. They wouldn't check out before the checkout time.
And there was a bit of
there was a bit of
toing and froing,
bit
at
of
reception.
pushback, yeah. And I think we were still in the hotel because we had finished the cafe, because that closed around 3 or 4, and it was in the evening time where they were trying to get them out of the hotel.
Yeah, and checkout time was like 12.
We were still in the office, and then I can't remember who was working behind or on reception. Was it Irina?
Possibly, but it doesn't matter.
But we went up, and I was a bit too scared because I was like, these people seem like they're on a bit of a mad one. But you went up with your phone and started recording. And what was it they said? Or what did you say?
I can't quite remember what I said, but I do remember her saying something like, so she was...
I know exactly what she said, but I'm trying to think of what you said. Oh, sorry, I hit the mic.
Don't worry about the mic. I can't remember, Jason. Now, I'd have it all documented in my phone. But so I'd like you to say what she said in exactly her accent.
She kind of like, did she hit you? Or she did something with her hand, but she was like, get that phone out of my face before I smash it.
Yeah.
And then...
she repeated it again.
Kept repeating it, like, and then you took that clip.
And we made a rap out of it.
And we made a rap.
And it went like super viral. It actually went really viral.
It
was her, you better get out of my face before I smash your phone. And then we made a rap on it.
You did the slow version.
We did a slow. We did 3 or different kind of iterations of the rap. And it did really, really well. And I think then we got a knock from the guards.
Yeah.
And we were fired.
So what happened was her mom had seen it and called the hotel. Yeah. And I think Irina recorded the message where she was saying that the girl is distraught and that her face was plastered all over social media and to take the video down. And then she called back, and I think you answered and you recorded the message, and you were like, I'm not going to...
And I shared that as well.
And you shared that as well.
Yeah. Did I ever overstep the mark?
No.
I
think everything was absolutely fucking hilarious. And I think if you're stupid enough to behave that way to a business, like, you need to be able to face some repercussions, because if you're able to go into a business and treat staff that way and carry on like that and think that there's going to be no pushback, then like they need to be taught a lesson. And I think that like that's the great thing about social media now is like you are held accountable for your actions. Like if you go in anywhere and you treat someone like shit just because like that's their job and they might not be directly, you know, responsible for what you're going through or whatever. Especially if they're acting out a character, like you should be able to face some backlash from it.
Do you think that if like it was in this day and age, and I did stuff like share CCTV of people horsing food into them, or CCTV of a girl coming in and robbing the tip jar, or your woman who dumped the bins in the thing and made videos out, you know, if it was 2024, would I have gotten away with it?
I think so.
Right.
I think that now, like I see it all the time on like TikTok or Instagram stories of businesses fighting back against these kind of unjust posts trying to like target a business because they simply didn't get their own way. It's all this like sense of entitlement. If something didn't go their way, they're like out for blood against these businesses or establishments. And I think that now, like you starting what you did at the time is very controversial, but you look at businesses like Ryanair, even their funny videos that they do, fantastic. On like they're almost aware of how they overcharge people and they kind of run with it. Then they have these really funny like kind of responses. And then Little Ireland is another one, or Wendy's in the US, where they just
so
take
it's
the
almost
piss.
mainstream now. Outrage marketing has almost become mainstream now.
Yeah, it's like it's true that even the Karen's Cafe now, you go there to get abused. Love that. Like,
is that coming to Dublin?
I hope so. There's one in London. Haven't been yet, but it's brilliant. Like it's like what I love is when people bring their family members. They're not telling them, because I know Eileen would have a conniption, and they're fantastic.
That'd be brilliant
to see people bring their elderly parents thinking they're going to this cafe and they're like,
I'd love to bring
shut
my
the fuck
dad,
up.
for example.
Could you imagine? Or your mom,
not knowing what type of what, you know, it's there's all these trends on TikTok as well, like which I saw recently over Christmas, was the son or daughter giving a Christmas card to the parents that they wrote themselves, from Jeremy and Jemima and the dog Otto, and
they take stuff from the house.
No, but it's thanks, happy Christmas to you, and they make up some story and they open it, and I love that kind of stuff. So Karen's, if it does come to Dublin, I think that would be fabulous. Bringing people who don't know what to expect. Or I think it's a normal restaurant. That would be really, really fun.
But that's what I think people used to think the White Moose was, because they used to come in and be like, oh, you're all so polite. I was expecting to get abused. I was like, no, it's a proper cafe.
Yeah.
So I think we missed the mark on that one.
Well, look, I mean, I can't look back on the days of the White Moose in any other way but in a fond manner. I mean, I think those days were fabulous.
Amazing.
And I think over the couple of years, well, it was between 2015 and I did miss you, Jason, when you left. I did. And it wasn't really the same, if I do say so. The people we met over the years, you know, the people who worked in the cafe, in the hotel, I miss, you know. And I certainly look back with a lot of nostalgia. And, you know, you'd miss Agay, you'd miss Irina. I miss Chris. I often think about these people that, you know, we used to work with, but I don't know what they're up to. But that was an era or a period of our lives that was formative. Like it built us in more ways than one, you know, like it strengthened us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, look, Jason, thank you for coming on. Thank you for flying
Anytime.
over, especially for this. It was a fabulous chat. Thanks again for coming over.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for lighting up my life for how long was it? 5.5, 6 years?
6 years, I think,
Yeah. But we're still buddies.
Oh yeah, besties.
We still send WhatsApp and we still speak in our own language.
Braid each other's hair.
Yeah. Will you braid mine afterwards? We had our own little language and we kind of still communicate with each other via WhatsApp.
We do. We get updates. Dee Dee.
Yeah.
The dogs.
Yeah. Poor Renko's gone.
I know.
But look, you actually, what I was very happy about was the last time you were over, we didn't know what the future for Renko was going to be. He was old, and I remember you sitting on the couch with him, giving him a lot of love.
Of course.
And you went out that door, and I kind of thought to myself, you know what? That's probably the last time, you know. But
I cried like a bitch.
Yeah. Well, I was numb for days, but look, we talk about that another day. Anyway, Jason, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode. Really appreciate it. Thank you again to Jason for being part of it. Folks, If you've liked this episode and want to see more, like and subscribe now.